I bet you didn't know about Leonard Lake and Charles Ng. Leonard was convinced that there would be a nuclear holocaust that would wipe out all living beings on Earth. So he took his wife's cabin that was secluded in the woods and turned it into a bunker. Leonard invited his brother Donald and his friend Charles Gunner, who was the best man in his wedding, to the bunker, where he brutally murdered both of them. He then took on Gunner's identity. While looking for another victim, that is when Leonard met Charles, and they began their 2-year torturous murdering spree. Between 1983 and 1985, the duo kidnapped, tortured, assaulted, and murdered between 8 and 25 victims. The remains of 12 different people were found on this property, and so was a 40-pound pile of charred bones. Leonard and Charles would keep their female victims alive and use them as slaves that they would repeatedly assault. They were kept in a 6.5-foot by 3.5-foot cinder block bunker, with one wall being a one-way mirror with only a bucket and toilet paper inside. Eventually, the assaults would get more gruesome, and their victims would end up passing away. Once they did, they would chop up their body and then dissolve it in acid. Before the assaults, the victims' legs would be put in iron bracers. If they captured a couple, they would make the man watch as they brutally assaulted, and then eventually witnessing their murder. After 2 years without a sign of being caught, Charles made the mistake of trying to steal a screwdriver. When Leonard arrived at the hardware store to try and pay off the screwdriver, police began to question both of them. That's when they realized there was a lot more sinister things happening. They found an illegal firearm inside of Leonard's vehicle, and that led to the warrant of his arrest. Leonard was prepared for something like this to happen. He had sewed cyanide pills into his clothing. Once arrested, he ripped them from his clothing and bit into them, causing his death before he could even be tried for what he had done. A month later is when they captured Charles Ng. He was found guilty of 11 counts of murder and sentenced to death. If you go to my Instagram, you can see a home video made by Leonard and Charles. It's them speaking to one of their victims. Viewer's discretion is advised because it's very uncomfortable to hear.